Hey, it's your favorite YouTube, Chris Palmer, and I'm gonna recap some of the news that I found this week, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Joe Biden's impeachment, the FBI warning to the Capitol, and the sinking ship called Twitter, and Nancy Pelosi pulling the race card, and Michael Beller from PBS bragging about destroying families. I mean, PBS, it's funded by the government and everything. I mean, they get grants and all this stuff. But on the first story, we're going to go with Joe Biden's impeachment. Joe Biden getting impeached on the 21st of January. A freshman congresswoman, Mallory Taylor Greene, a Republican from Georgia, she is drawing up impeachment articles because we the people do not want a man who is known to take bribes from Chinese energy companies and Ukrainian energy companies, or he'll blackmail the Ukraine government until they fire the attorney that was investigating his son, Hunter Biden. He was actually bragging about how he would withhold $1 billion in aid if they didn't fire the attorney. Joe Biden said, "I've got 6 hours before I leave," and they said, "Well, son of a bitch," and they fired the attorney. That's what Joe Biden said on an interview. He was bragging about this shit. So Joe Biden did the same thing that they tried to impeach Trump on. The Democrats was okay with Joe Biden doing it, but they had to make up stuff about President Trump doing it because President Trump didn't do that. But Joe Biden admitted on a damn tape bragging about him doing it, telling them they was going to withhold the aid from Ukraine if they didn't fire the attorney that was investigating his son. Now that right there tells you that is not a man that is trustworthy to be in the White House. Okay, let's move on. And this one, I can't believe I'm quoting an article from CNN, but here goes. The FBI gave a report that there were going to be trouble in the Capitol. So my question is, why didn't they up the security? Because the Sergeant of Arms of the Senate and Congress was told them to stand down so they could let the riot go on, so they could condemn President Trump and all his supporters, to also fast track the second impeachment of President Trump, because they are afraid of him coming back even stronger in 2024 with a Republican House and Senate, and it frightens them to their very core. The government had all the info to stop the riot, but they did not act on it. The riot started right before the president started his speech, so that shows he did not start the insurrection. Okay? You can't start an insurrection when they've done breached the barriers, quote, quote. I say breached the barriers because, the cops kind of just opened them up and let them in. But you can't start an insurrection when it's been started before your speech has ever began. I mean, it's just common sense. This impeachment is, I'll quote President Trump, a witch hunt. And that's all it'll ever be. And now let's move on, and we'll talk about the sinking ship we call Twitter now. Their stocks are plummeting since they took President Trump off or a better term, banned a sitting president. That shows that big tech is so powerful too powerful for their own good. Unless the government steps in and breaks up the big tech monopoly, they can censor anyone that doesn't agree with their agenda, and then freedom of speech will be thrown out the window. We should have the same freedom of speech on these platforms as we do in real life. And that is exactly how it should be. I mean, they can't be sued for anything anybody does or says on that platform anyway. So I don't know why they banned it. It's like a double-edged knife there. They can't be sued, but then they won't let you say what you want to say. It makes no sense. Because the Article 230 that President Trump was trying to get through out, and when they had that 5,000-page bill, they didn't put that in there. But from what I've heard, yeah, the $2,000 stimulus checks and the 230 bill and that stuff is being voted on in a separate bill. So we'll have to watch out for more news about that. And we'll go on to the next one. And we can't leave out our favorite person to hate, Nancy Pelosi, telling us that people at the Capitol chose their whiteness over democracy. Even though there were people of all races at the Capitol that day. But for race-baiting Nancy Pelosi, race-baiting Nancy Pelosi is trying to pit white people and all the other races against each other, so we don't focus on how bad the Congress and the Senate have messed up our government. It's a smoke and mirror tactic. I also think she's scared to death about what is going to be found on her laptop. It is probably going to be worse than Hunter Biden's. Yeah, she's scared to death of that laptop. That laptop has all of her stuff on there, all the dirty little secrets where she's been planning all these things against Trump and all this stuff. So I can't wait till that comes out. That's going to be the breaking news story of the year there, because I guarantee you, that hateful bitch, she's got shit on there. She's probably kept it from the time she first became senator. Because, I mean, everybody knows she's out of touch with her constituents and the state she represents. She has no idea. She probably can't even tell you what California looks like nowadays. I mean, with all the tent cities and the shitting and pissing in the streets and the shooting up on the streets and laying there with a needle in their arm and everything else, I mean, I don't know, she could be with her constituents. She could live in a tent outside in her yard and shit and piss in her yard and shoot up dope. I don't know. I mean, she looks like she shot up her fair share of dope because of the way her face looks and stuff. I don't know if it's a bad facelift or if it's just the way she looks. But, I mean, to me, it looks like she shot up a hell of a lot of dope in her years. But, let's go on to this. Is a shocking one right here. This is, today, thanks to Project Veritas for exposing Michael Beller for inciting violence against Trump supporters. He said that they would have DHS take away Trump supporter kids and have them put in re-teachment camps, re-education camps. As for the adults, they would put them in jail because they're deplorables. There was another person that talked about re-education camps, and that was Hitler. There sure has been a lot said by the Democrats that remind me of a man named Adolf Hitler. And you know, the funny thing about the whole situation is the Democrats compare President Trump with Hitler. But the Democrats are the ones that are almost quoting Hitler. I mean, they're following his playbook like it's a football playbook. I mean, they're trying to take guns away. They're trying to stop freedom of speech so they can control the propaganda and all that stuff. I mean, that's what Hitler done. But yet they compare Trump to Hitler. When he's free speech, he's made the lowest unemployment rate in 60 years. And he's put America first. One of the first presidents since probably Ronald Reagan that put America first before any other. I mean, and they compare him to Hitler when they're talking about re-education camps and the people at the Capitol was using their whiteness. I mean, she's race baiting right there because they were people, black people, they were Asian people, they were mixed people. They were all sorts of people at the Capitol that day. And she's trying to say their whiteness. I mean, and Joe Biden, he named off how he was going to fix the company for all these different colors and left out white. I mean, come on now. I mean, I understand playing the politics toward the minorities and stuff to try to get votes, but when you're leaving people out, like when he was talking about mom and pop stores getting aid to help start up, and he only talked about the ones in inner cities and stuff like that, not like the ones around my hometown that had to shut down because of COVID. The nail salons, the gas stations, and different stuff like that. He didn't talk about giving them money back to start their businesses back. He talked about giving minorities, like in black neighborhoods and Chinese neighborhoods, and he went on and on this speech. And you can look it up on YouTube. It was on there. I've seen it and watched it, and that troubles me. I mean, because it seems like all the Democrats want to do is race bait us against each other. I mean, he even put in Native Americans, which shocked the holy shit out of me because I've not heard a president talk about Native Americans, my people, in forever. I mean, forever. I mean, we're doing good. We didn't, in Cherokee, we didn't shut down shit like that. We wore a mask. We did what we wanted to. I mean, we even had a trip up in Cherokee while the COVID stuff was going on. And it was all good. But, I mean, when you go as far as putting Native Americans in there, that shocks people that are of Native American heritage. I mean, this is a Trail of Tears necklace, I mean, that I built, that I made my own self. And that each tear stands for a soul that died on the Trail of Tears over to Oklahoma. My part of the Cherokee fought and stayed in its home in North Carolina. And I'm proud of that. But when he says all that and he leaves out the white people are just as poor as black people. You can ask the conservative twins. They grew up in the South, and I was watching a thing where they were talking about the rebel flag don't bother them. To them, they grew up as that was a thing of Southern pride, was the rebel flag. And, you know, it don't bother a lot of black people around here and with the rebel flag and stuff, because it's their Southern pride too. I mean, it's just crazy on how they try to pit every little thing against each other and use every little sneaky tactic that they can. But I was just here to wrap up on the news on all that stuff. And I can't say stuff about the supposed election fraud and stuff like that. But, I mean, if the Democrats didn't have nothing to hide, they would have set a third party out to investigate the supposed voter fraud and stuff, and to see where the anomalies showed up. That way we would ensure our elections would be better, because there's no other way of making stuff better than going over them and making sure see what we got right and see what we got wrong, and then take that and put the right stuff in, take the bad stuff that we did out, and replace it with more good stuff. But this is Chris Palmer, and I was just wanting to hit on a few subjects that had come out in the news and try to explain a little bit to yous about it. And yous can look them up on YouTube. Yous can look them up in the media and read on it, because some of them I had to read. I had to Google it and find out, what was said about it and what was that. I mean, and choose who you read it from wisely. I mean, don't do your New York Post and all these fake news deals. Go to the Epic Times. Go to Newsmax. Go to stations that are about the truth, and the truth either way, whether it's good or bad, whether it's good for Democrats or whether it's bad for Democrats, whether it's good for Republicans, whether it's bad for Republicans. I mean, go to these stations. That's the ones you need to watch, not the fake news that keep telling you the same thing over and over again. And I cannot believe that I quoted something from CNN about the FBI knowing. And I'll tell you the chain of command on that. The FBI finds this stuff out. They report it to the D.C. Metro Police. The D.C. Metro Police report it to the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate and the House. And then they put troops or bring troops in or put more security where it needs to be. And all of them failed. All three of them failed. The Sergeant at Arms of the Senate, the Sergeant at Arms of the Congress, and the D.C. Police, the D.C. Metro Police Chief. They all failed at their jobs. Even though the FBI, which has been a hack thing since 2016, evidently has been straightening up their act. But that's why all three of them people resigned, because they didn't do their job. They stood back and let it happen so that they could demonize Trump supporters. Just think about that. Well, this is Chris Palmer. I'm signing off. I've got some more stuff I'm researching, and hopefully I'll be back on tomorrow with some things. I'm wanting to do a story on George Soros, and I'm researching it real thoroughly, that way that I'm not misquoting stuff. But as far as I can see, that man is just pure evil. Russia has banned him. I mean, if that tells you anything, and we all know Russia has got some corrupt places, and Russia banned them from their country. But anyway, I'm going to get out from here, and I'll get back with you on some more stories, and we'll see you tomorrow.